absolute naturals at this. Oh, we're recording. Funny. Okay, day 3. So we're 3 weeks out. 3 weeks today. Day 3 is we're going to put up 2 that we would back now and 1 that we would lay. And Jono will kick us off again. It was big, man.
Right, hello. I'm going to be Captain Obvious again, but bear with me, and I won't take long. So in the last pod, Kev said Jerry Colon was probably his favourite shorty. Honestly, I can't see how Shishkin, a shade of odds against, non-runner no bet. Oh, I was against him before Ascot. I'm done. I've loved you like a lot on the forum. We backed him for the Supreme, Arkle, etc. There's a lot of history there. But yeah, I'd written him off. Two bad runs, but he was absolutely electric at Ascot. And if you have a look at what's actually going to line up on the day, I think you're probably going to get 5 runners max. You're going to get Blue Lord, Fury Road, Janadil, Envoy Allen. That's probably it. I think any of the horses that were going to kind of come along, the Garlaw, French Dynamites, they'll probably swerve it. You're talking about 160 horses. He just, if anything like his last run and the runs we know he can do, he's so far clear. Yes, I'm talking about close to even money shot. It's completely obvious. To me, he should be probably 4 to 7 non-runner no bet. I would have him shorter than that. I think actually his price is value. He's 9 years old, along with a lot of the field. I think Blue Lord is the only 8-year-old, the only horse younger that's probably going to line up. In terms of chase runs, to me, it feels like Shishkin's been around for a long time. He's only had 10 runs over fences. Again, horses like Janadil have had more. I think Fury Road is 9. Blue Lord, who's the year younger, has an 8. So he's coming up fast as well. So you're talking about horses that are kind of 160 to 165 max. And we've kind of had enough evidence of all of them, I think, that's their level. They're not unexposed. None of them are unexposed. Blue Lord, probably the most unexposed. But he's actually run quite a lot of times now. I think he's kind of a grade 2 horse, has been completely flattered by that Christmas run that was beating Captain Guinness. So yeah, for me, Shishkin in what will be a 4 or 5 runner field has so much in hand, and 11 to 10, I think is the best price. Well, I might have just got 11 to 10, non-runner no bet.
2 questions. Has anyone here got Shishkin as their lay?
No. I almost did, and I just shied off.
Okay, that's fine. And the second question then is, would you have, this is a pointless question really, but from what you're saying, you think he should be 4 to 7. Do you think he would have, is he a better shout for the race than Allaho would have been then?
Allaho, so if Allaho had turned up fresh?
Yeah.
I think they'd be very, very close.
I think my view on that, Kev, is that if Allaho had gone to the festival without a run, 4 to 7 would have been an awful price. He's typically needed a run. And look, you'd hope Willie would have him fit. But there's a difference between being fit and sharp. What he did previously, I was already nervous about whether he was able to repeat again, if I'm honest. Yes, I backed him fairly heavily because I'd still have expected him to win, but I'm not sure that the race didn't fall apart behind him previously. And I'm not sure that would necessarily happen this time. But if he's not as sharp as it's all immaterial, really, because he's not going. But I'm not sure.
As I was thinking about asking, I was like, this is going to take quite a bit of time and it's never going to happen. So should we get back to Jono's?
But yeah, so he's the bet one, and frankly, there's been a lot of talk about the Gold Cup with Shishkin. I'd have loved to have seen it, but the fact that you're even mentioning and wanted to see him in the Gold Cup shows how much of a good thing he is in this race. Second is again obvious, but Mighty Potter. I know we're all massive fans of Appreciate It on this podcast. We've said about his claims many a time. I think last year, kind of the start of last year, when he was going to kind of be aimed at the Arkle, he was probably our value pick. I was massively disappointed at Dublin Racing Festival. I kind of dodged a bullet a bit because I hadn't really backed him for the Arkle until non-runner no bet, which I'm hoping he obviously doesn't show for that. I think it obviously looks like he will turn up in the Turners. I just start to question now whether he's at top high level over fences. Kind of touched on Time Hill on the RSA. I'm not a fan of these horses that have kind of stayed over hurdles for more than one season. Yes, you can argue, Appreciate It. It wasn't by design, kind of injury force that. But he's going to be 9 years old. I think you have to take him on now. I've got him backed. I couldn't completely rule him out. We've seen with Willie Mullins. I think he's got Mellon. He obviously had those years over hurdles. He was just touched off in the Turners. Faheen obviously just touched off. So by no means do I think he's not got a chance at all. But I would be, if I actually say, right, who's winning the race, I don't think he'll win it. Banbridge, again, he will line up. It appears to be. Doesn't look like he'll go the Arkle after Leopardstown. I think he was flattered by last time. I think he's the kind of horse that you can kind of expect more from his next run, the way he kind of finishes off his races. But I do think that flatters him slightly. I think he's a good jumper, and because of that, he can kind of get by over 2 miles, which is what we saw in the Arkle trial earlier on at the course in October or November. And I think he can hold his own over kind of 2 mile 4. But to me, he is essentially a 3 mile plus chaser. I just think he's a very good jumper that early on, especially in the season, that can kind of bring you into kind of shorter distances. But I think again he will be found out. He will probably stay on. He's got place claims. But like a lot of these festival races, you actually then look through the field. It's not going to be that many running. Stage Star, not a particular fan of. Yes, he won off 12 stone on Trials Day. I think most of the field would do that. We've actually seen, I think Kevin Blake's banged on about it for years, where novices and handicap, as a novice handicap to be fair, but novices and handicaps running off high weights, they can do it. It's probably not as much. It gets a lot more of an impact post-race because it's not always attempted. But if a lot more of these novices were going for these races, it would happen more often. They can shoulder the weight. So obviously we've had years of kind of overinflated marks for these handicappers. So yeah, I think you could run certainly the top 3 in the Turners off 12 stone in that race, and they would have done the exact same thing. Journey with Me isn't going to go. Not a big fan of Balco Coastal. Adamantly chosen. I think Mighty Potter he just looks rock solid. He's probably the only horse in the entire field and who will line up that I'll have any interest in 2024 and onwards. He's only 6 years old. He's got multiple graded form over hurdles and now fencing over fences. Kind of mentioned about Sir Gerhard, kind of how he's had that kind of top hurdles career. assuming top chasing career. But Mighty Potter just, to me, I think we will this race will end and it'll kind of just be, yeah, he was the absolute obvious winner here. Ground isn't a concern. He's won over soft and good ground this year. I think the only, well, obviously the key thing people will say about is that Supreme run. It's one run. He was a 5-year-old, a year older now. It's obviously a different course. It's going to be over the new course. It's a different day. So obviously the Supreme, the Turners is the first race on the day, but it's far less of a kind of spectacle than the first day of the festival. A bit more calmer. I think again, that's a Gerhard, the kind of horse that he kept beating over hurdles was 3 Stripe Life. Same horse that Mighty Potter won. Obviously, Mighty Potter did beat Sir Gerhard, but that's a punch down end of the season. That can be kind of have an asterisk on that one. But to me, I think there's question marks on the field. There's very, very little. Yes, I think you can you can go through his graded chase form this season and kind of nitpick at it. But then you start going through the rest of the field and they've got bigger questions for me. I think Gordon Elliott loves him. He's 6 years old. He's got a lot more ahead of him than I think every other runner was going to run. So that will be my second bet. Again, I think odds against is pretty fair, non-runner, no bet. In terms of my lay, interested, I wonder if Paul might pick up on this one later. It would actually be Marie's Rock in the Stayers. It sounds like she's going to come here. Like I touched on 2 podcasts back, I love her for the mares. I would take her on here. I think probably once she gets confirmed, she will be second favourite. So I do expect it to be slightly shorter. I think she's around 5-1 at the moment. I think I remember Annie Powers, Stayers Hurdle, where she got touched off in second by more of that. She was a bit too keen, probably did a bit too much early on, just didn't see it out. I think that I see shades of that happening exactly if she lines up here. I just don't think the 3 miles is ideal for her. Yes, she gets the weight. On paper, it's a potentially easier race, although I do think it's actually started to kind of get a bit more of a solid look, the Stayers now. I don't think she should be coming here. I think she will. But yeah, I would definitely lay her if she turns up.
It's interesting. I did consider that whole thing, and the Annie Power comparison, Jono, because she has been keen in her races, but she is settling now. And I thought she settled quite well last time too. So I don't think I could lay her at that kind of price. I did give her some consideration, having said that, but I don't think I could lay her.
Yeah, I mean, again, just the Annie Power comparisons. Annie Power won the rail keel. It's a soft ground against Arcanda, pulled clear very easily. She's one of my favourite horses. I was all in on the Stayers of that day. But I think, again, if you took the rail keel hurdle for Annie Power and you kind of went soft ground, of course you can step up. There is a difference. Absolutely, Marie's Rock is settling better. I mean, she was a kind of lunatic early on in her career. I just think she's still that bit of keenness to her, and I think that will be her undoing.
I think the other reason I'd struggle is it's a very, very competitive Stayers hurdle. It's going to be one of the more competitive grade ones of the festival. But it's hard to say it's a really good quality Stayers hurdle. And I'm not sure we've had a good quality Stayers hurdle for 3 or 4 years in actual fact. Blazing Carl, some injury problems. some doubts whether we'll get there, although I think there might be a lot of smoke around that. Clearly, Florian Porter's had his issues. To get him back there in the form that he's been the last 2 years, I think it's going to be really difficult. Tehupu, it's really hard to get a handle on that form for me, if I'm honest. I'm really torn on him, on whether I want to like him or whether I want to, not have him at all. Home by the Lee, would any of us have been talking about him? I suppose there's an argument that says nobody was talking about Florian Porter in the same way, so he could be another Florian Porter. And, when you actually really analyse all the main candidates for that race, there's nothing that makes a really rock solid case, I don't think. And I think Maria's Rock's got a little bit of class about her. She is settling better. If she does get the trip, who's this season's more of that? That's the thing. She could just be good enough, and that's why all those things considered, I couldn't lay her at that price. If she was silly short, then I would, of course, I would. It's worth the risk of the lay at that point. It's on your side, but I think at 5-1, I don't think it could.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I think 5-1. I can see her being definitely second favourite, probably around 7-2, 3-1, even a bit short, to be honest.
You're certainly considering it then. But I also think Thursday, when we're all putting up a lay, the 30 was actually quite a hard day to find a lay, if I'm honest. I found it quite tough.
Yeah, me too. Do you want to go on to yours, Paul, as you're on the screen?
Yeah, can do. So the horse I'm going to lay, that's quite nice following Jono for this one. The horse I'm going to lay is Mighty Potter.
Poor choice.
So I am going to make almost the complete reverse of the argument that Jono just made. But he's a good horse, clearly. But 5-4, you can argue it's not going to be a particularly deep race, and I get and understand that argument. But, there are a couple of things for me. I think the first one is it's really hard to be very specific about this first one, but there is something that I don't like about his jumping. He is a bit fiddly. He's, he puts down a little bit on landing every so often. He never feels as though he's... No, that's not fair. I won't say he never feels as though he's coming on a perfect stride, but too often it feels as though he hasn't. And I think that there are some jumping frailties there. He lands a bit steep occasionally. And I don't think he's had his jumping properly tested yet. And when you see these fiddly little things going on, when you start to get championship pace around Cheltenham, I think his jumping might actually end up under pressure. And that kind of price 5-4, I'd be quite willing to take, the view that I'd be a layer. I also think there's another risk, and that is that he didn't travel well last year. Something wasn't right. So maybe it is the fact that he doesn't travel well. We've seen a few horses come over from Ireland, good horses come over from Ireland that never ran well at the festival. It's happened with Gordon in the past. Was it also like Battle Over Doyen in their younger days, for example? There are a few shades of that for me with him. Who knows? I'm guessing, clearly. We won't know until this time. But there is some risk there. And I'm going to make an opposite case for Appreciate because I just think he needs further. I think Willie originally never saw him as a 2-mile horse. Saw him as a 2.5 mile that was going to go out to 3 miles and probably be a future Gold Cup horse. So coming up against top quality novices over 2 miles, particularly horses like El Fabiolo, Dice Like Dynamo being a tear away, I don't think that race suited him one little bit. And I think he probably just wants further. I think step up to 2.5 miles, particularly on the new course, I think will work in his favour. And I think we'll see a much better horse this time. I actually think he's the better jumper of the two, for all the reasons I've just said. He was a stone better over hurdles than Mighty Potter was. And if they're going to jump similarly, then I believe that Appreciate It can improve for going out in trip, then I think he's a big danger to Mighty Potter, and I think at the respective prices now, I'd be a layer of Mighty Potter.
Do you think? So a quick one. Do you think Appreciate It ran? Do you think it was just a trip?
Yeah, I just don't think he's
disappointed in him?
replaced anymore, John. I really don't. I thought that might be the case at the start of the season, and I've seen nothing to change my mind about that.
The only thing I would say is, I mean, I've been a massive Appreciate It fan from the time he ran in his bumpers. He won a 2.5 mile bumper, so that would certainly support what Paul's saying about distance. And so I back him with my heart as much as anything else every time he runs. But I have to say, I felt he was really sluggish at the Dublin Racing Festival. Very little spark about him, to my mind, and I was disappointed. And he didn't run well. He came back for the champion hurdle, which was probably a mistake last year. I just haven't seen the same spark about him, despite winning a couple of chases this year. I'd love to be wrong, totally love to be wrong, but I am concerned.
I'm going to have to jump in here, guys.
I thought him actually being outpaced in the champion hurdle was probably the sign that Willie should have taken. He was outpaced in the champion hurdle.
I'm going to have to jump in because he's my selection. There is no way there are 3 horses better than him in the Turners. This is going to be the Willie Mullins first string in the race.
I hope you're right, Kev.
even if Mighty Potter wins, there's no way there's 3. Like, he was a nose behind Banbridge, so even if we let Banbridge finish ahead of him again, which I don't think he will, then what else is there? You've got Stage Star, who I don't have in the same league. You've got Journey With Me, unlikely to run. Balco Coastal. Like, there is no way there will be 3 horses ahead of Appreciate It. Yeah, I think I was disappointed myself. Like, I will get accused of backing with my heart because I've loved Appreciate It for years now. But there's just not 3 horses better than him. I think he's got a genuine win chance. And on the day 2 pod, we were talking about Paul said Sir Gerhard is a great bet, 5-1 each way. That compared to this, absolute, like, Appreciate It will not be out of the 3 with a genuine win chance. I think an absolutely knocking good each way bet. So everything else already been said. I agree with a lot of what Jono said about when he went through the race for the reasons Mighty Potter's not got a lot of competition. There's just I disagree with Appreciate It not being the one that can step up. I think that the confidence behind him before that race as well, where he must have disappointed them in the Irish Arkle. Just amount of confidence in him from the yard. I love those vibes as well. So yeah, that was one of my bets. But I will let you go back, Paul, and finish off.
Yeah, so my bets for the third day, the first bet was actually very close to being the Naiad this year. I couldn't confirm that this race was the target. I think it might have ended up being impossible to confirm that this was the race with the target, because I actually think it was a choice between the Grand Annual and the Plate. And I think this horse needs to step up in trip. It had the entries in both races. I think ultimately it will go to the Grand Annual if we end up with soft ground or worse. And if it's anything better than that, it will be going to the Plate. But the problem is when you're doing that Naiad, you can't really plump for a race and it ends up in the other one, can you? You have to have enough certainty. So
is this Naiad 2 then, Paul?
No, this isn't Naiad 6. I still don't know. But the reality is, I do think it will go to the Plate. It has been backed actually in the last 24 hours. It was originally 33s, 28s, 25s, 20s. It's now 16s. I did have a pretty good stake in the ground because I had hoped it was going to be the Naiad, so I already have it back to win about 7k now, I think, for this race. But obviously, no runner, no bet. And that's Pharaoh Bombo. It's a horse that has actually been mentioned and talked about on the forum. Bird's Nest mentioned it about a month ago, I think, and we had a minor talk about it because I just didn't know whether he knew anything. I just wanted to find out, really. But no, it was just a conversation, really. So, I'd been interested in him for a little while. He'd been on my short list, and as that gets narrowed down, he was on the short list. But I think he's just crying out for a step up to 2.5 miles. And there's sufficient cross form with the right horses to suggest he's well handicapped anyway. And I think going out to 2.5 miles will bring out plenty of improvement in him. And at 16-1, I think he's still a very good bet. I think if he goes to the plate, he's probably going to go off 10s or shorter. So, I wouldn't discourage anybody from a bet on him. The other back for the day, actually, I'm half with Jono. I'm only half with Jono, and I'll explain in a second. I think Shishkin available at 65 actually is a very good price. I would expect him to definitely go off at odd time. But my second bet for the day is actually a double with Shishkin and Lucia. So I actually just can't see either of those horses being beaten. 6-5 Shishkin, 7-4 Lucia makes a shade more than the 6-1 double. I don't think Willie has anything that's better than Lucia. I can't see where a dark one's coming from that we don't know about. I remember that year when Willie ran about 15 horses in the race and one that we'd never heard of. I just don't see that. I think she's just much better than everything else. I think she's probably 10 pounds to a stone clear of Willie's horses. I think she's very, very good. And that double shade over 6-1, I think, is just a bit of a must bet.
Fair enough. I will. I'm going to jump in here as well because I have actually put something up in that race. My second tip's against Lucia, but it's literally because of just on the off chance that she isn't, or the Irish horses are ahead because that form's not been tested yet. And it's Jatara at 16-1 each way, non-run, no bet. She was a length and a quarter behind Ashrow Diamond when they met, and Ashrow Diamond is Mullins' shortest price for this, and the second favourite for the race at 3-1. She'll have a penalty, I believe, for winning that race. So straight away that puts her in the mix. Lucia looks really good. So it is sort of, I just think she'll be in the mix. Now, Lucia could run away with it, but she's 6-4. And I just thought 16-1 against, let's take out, if it was just Irish horses running, then I think Jatara at 16-1 is an unbelievably good each way bet. I've just got nothing at all against Lucia. She could absolutely sluice up. So fair enough. But yeah, that was my other bet. So appreciate it. And Jatara were my two bets for the day. And I did really struggle for a lay. There was nothing. I liked Mighty Potter too much. I like Lucia, like Shishkin. Blazing Cow, I wouldn't be laying at 11-4, despite it being a deepish race. So the one that I would, I suppose, take on is So Scottish. And I just think what's happened, there's two things that have happened here. Emmett Mullins is there and JP McManus, and the bookies have priced it a joke 5-1. And people are seeing that and thinking it must be a good thing. So the shorter it gets, the more people are going to think it's going to win. And it's this unbelievable plot. They claimed off him last time, and I don't like that going into a big handicap, as if that's, I feel like I like a claimer on the day, on the big day. And I'm not sure, like, if Mark Walsh is riding or whoever would ride, I don't think they're so much stronger than the claimer. So although I won't be laying at 1-5, I think that's one of the worst price favourites I can see. I can see it getting shorter. It's one of them where people just get absolutely carried out. There'll be some people, I'm sure on the forum, someone's put up at some point and have bigger prices, and that's fair enough. But I would 100% be laying that for my stake back. So whilst I wouldn't be laying it, I saw that and I thought the price was a joke.
I actually don't think it will be shorter. I think people won't latch onto it. I think you're right. I think you're right about the reasons why it's backed in the first place. But I see him as a drifter, and I don't think he's even got favourite.
I mean, if he drifts, I'll back him, obviously. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So who we got left? Where it's
just me. So yeah. So
best till last.
I start off with a lay. I'm sort of with Paul with Mighty Potter. Not that it's not. I think it's run really well so far this year. I just think it's a very short price, and I am concerned after last year. I don't. He came out and won a game that punches down after Cheltenham. So it just seemed very anomalous that he ran so poorly.
Absolutely.
Cheltenham last year. He got very warm before the race. He hit a rail on the way to the start. Very fractious. I would worry about it. It's also the first race of the day. Crowd's wound up. He's wound up. That would be my concern about him. I would love Appreciate It to win, but I'm going to just put a bit of money on from a heart perspective as opposed to a brain perspective, and I hope he wins. I really do. But the two I think I would go for in the attempts, I'm very intrigued by Salvador Ziggy. Elliot got in qualified on the number, came fourth behind Shoot First, giving £21 away. Different track at Cheltenham, but on the same course. Runs well fresh. The ground, I think, will go in his favour. And when he won previously, he ran a couple of very nice races, I think. So he would be one I'd be very interested in the attempts. And then the other one, and Paul mentioned it earlier, but in a different context. Ida's Boy, I think, shows all the signs, to my mind, of potentially being a much better chaser than was a hurdler. So 135 over hurdles. I think it'd be more of a stayer over fences. He's in the Kimure, but I actually doubt, in all honesty, if he'll get in to the 145. He finished half a length behind El Barra, who's rated 153 in Ireland, off level weights. So if he gets in at 145, even off top weight with a claimer on, or a good amateur on, I would not be missing him. I think he's 16-1 for the Kimure. If he didn't go for the Kimure and they took a chance on the National Hunt Chase on the Tuesday, I think given the breeding, he could potentially get that 3 mile, 6 furlongs. And he wouldn't be a massive outsider to me at that. He's 33-1 in places for that race. I wouldn't rule him out. So I'm not sure which way I really want him to go, to be quite honest, but I think it's an intriguing horse in either race. And I think if Marie's Rock does go, I'd probably be on Marie's Rock. But the 12 would go with would be Salvatore Ziggy and Ida's Boy.
I think he's not qualified for the National Hunt Chase yet, Paul, and I don't think there's an opportunity still for him to qualify. He hasn't run over 3 miles in a chase, so I don't think that's going to be an option to him.
2 miles, 7.5, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. So I thought about him for the Kimure, but he's only got 2 completed chases, so Noel Mead's got to get him out somewhere between now and the festival. I think time's running out. I think, on balance, he may not make the festival at all. There's obviously a chance that they've got a race lined up somewhere. I think, based on what he's done so far, I think there is some risk with that Ida's Boy form that he gets raced over 145. I don't think as long as he doesn't go out and show something silly next time, I think he might just get in. But Noelme's got to go and find a race from somewhere.
Do you have to have 3 completed starts over fences?
Yeah, three completed chases. So, okay. I mean, there's still some time. I mean, there's still some horses running now that will end up at the festival. He's got very little mileage on the clock, only 2 completed starts this season. So, I think it's still feasible. And given it's Jigginstown, they're sure to have a good amateur on board as well. So they probably have Barry O'Neill, I would imagine. So I don't think it's that question that he does turn up in that race. It's just the sort of caution that he's still going to go and do something first.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Okay, fantastic. So I think we've rattled through everything there, haven't we, for day 3? Excellent. Okay, let's do day 4.